What is a podcast? I need to produce audio content and put it out on the internet. All right. Until I decided it was going to be an interview-based format, I was going to have like international type of guests. I was going to make this English only. But at the core, I need to produce audio content and push it out onto the internet. So to do that, I need a microphone. I need to record my voice. I need to have a message and I need to put it out. Those are the basics of the formula.
Welcome to the Awaken the Awesome podcast with your host, Olivier Day. This is Awaken the Awesome, a podcast where we acknowledge that we are all in this together. Through enlightening conversations and personal insights, we like to engage with individuals just like you who show us how they are bringing a little bit of awesomeness along their individual journeys. Our hope is to inspire you to always keep pushing and to stay awesome along the way.
A lot of conversation I've been having this week with my entourage, if you will. When I say my entourage, I mean people close, near, and far. And I just felt it was necessary to, step in, because when you hear stuff, you feel that maybe, just maybe, people have the wrong idea. And I felt that it was only important to give my 2 cents. And when people talk about the process, first of all, I want to be clear. As you know, I never step into this area as the guru. I never try to say or pretend to be better than anybody else, but I only bring in my own experience through this platform with my own life struggles and my own life lessons, if you will. And I'm only hoping to come into this realm with all vulnerability and the will to serve. Now, what's going on is that when I heard someone say like, oh, I don't know how to do it, or I'm a little bit confused, or how do I know what I'm doing is working? Or basically, I was trying to tell the person like, listen, you need to know what your process is. And I had to learn this throughout my own mistakes. And one realization I have is that most efficient people, and I can't believe I'm saying this. When I was a kid, I was in high school, and one of my mentors taught me, well, he didn't teach me, he highly suggested that I read Stephen Covey's book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And what you're only supposed to take from that book, if you haven't read it, you should. I know it's a staple of like a bunch of self-help and efficient process and just like trying to, identify what it is that you want to do out of life. But it's a good book for a reason, because it really helps you understand why you do the things you do and why certain people who are considering themselves efficient by these measures are actually good at what you do. Or there's another one called So Good They Can't Ignore You, which you also should read, which is really cool. Again, it's all about knowing what your patterns are. I love that word. I really love patterns. It really is important. Before I even get into these 3 simple steps, guys, I think that there's nothing I can tell you right now that is going to stick if by any measure you can't bring yourself to the, vulnerability and humility to understand that you need to understand who you are. You need to understand how you work. You need to understand how you tick. I'm not saying you need to get therapy. I'm not saying that, you should take a personality test, but those could help. It's very important to understand your formula before you even step into this. Now, like I said, I don't want to take too much of your time. It's going to be a very short call. You don't know how you're going to build this house. If you're going to build a house, you need to make sure you have the right tools. And if you're trying to build the house of you, before deconstructing it, you need to know what tools that you have in your hand. What type of help are you going to get, and what can you do by yourself? What you're good at, what you're not good at, what you like to do, what you don't like to do, what you are exceptionally good at, and stuff that you're going to have to actually like, and start to get liking, because you might not like it, but you're going to need this to actually be efficient. So first and foremost, I really thought it was very important to let you guys know, even before anything I'm going to tell you, it's very important for you to take ownership of who you are, what you do, how you do. And once you clarify that, it's going to make shit a hell of a lot easier for you going forward. So I really meant it when I said 3 simple steps. to an efficient process. And what I mean by that is that a lot of people get confused. A lot of people get lost. A lot of people get, overwhelmed with the simple steps that they need to do to ensure, whatever they want to achieve. And what I mean by this, I could pick an example, whether through this podcast, I could pick an example, whether through being a good husband, a good mate, a good child, a good employee, a good partner, a good collaborator, or good teamwork, or whether you're doing a presentation as a team. To be ensuring an efficient process, I believe there are very simple steps you can add, because sometimes the most successful outcomes are often a sum of very basic and simple applications. And they might, again, simplicity is very subtle, because sometimes it's the simple things that people often overlook. So I didn't want to waste you guys too much time on this. The first one I wrote down, because I did take notes. The first one I wrote down, and again, by the way, if you disagree with these, you can totally tell me, whether through the DMs or an email, just let me know. I really want to hear you guys' opinion on this one. So the first one I wrote down was basically honor the basics. What I mean by honoring the basics, whether it's baking a cake, whether it's doing a podcast, whether it's writing a book, whether it's losing weight, I don't care who you are. At the core, there are some very basic things that you need to do that you cannot dissociate from the formula of what you want to achieve. If you want to write a book, you need to sit down and write some lines. I did not tell you to write a paragraph today. I'm not telling you to write 6 pages by the end of the week. If that is the goal that you set, we can talk about goal setting. That's not what you're getting into. I'm talking about honoring the basics. There are basic things that you need to do. If we're talking about losing weight, a lot of people are going to tell me, oh, yeah, but not all bodies are different. I didn't talk to you about nutrition. I did not tell you about, your personal eating, dietary regimen. But there are some things your diet is going to have to adapt. There are some things that you need to eat. There is something that you can't eat. You have to do some exercise. You have to get moving. I'm not saying go to the gym. I'm not saying go lift, 300 pounds. I said you need some physical exercise. You need to change your diet. You need to sleep better. There are some basic things that can be applied to whatever goal you want to achieve for yourself. Now I was talking about losing weight. I could talk about writing a book. I can talk about this podcast. If I'm taking this example, for me, what is a podcast? I need to produce audio content and put it out on the internet. All right. Until I decided it was going to be an interview-based format, I was going to have international type of guests. I was going to make this English only. But at the core, I need to produce audio content and push it out onto the internet. So to do that, I need a microphone. I need to record my voice. I need to have a message, and I need to put it out. Those are the basics of the formula. That is the basic. If you're calling yourself a podcaster, you need to produce a podcast. I cannot tell it more simply than that. There are basics to being a good husband. There are basics to being, a qualified partner or good collaborator work. There are basics. You want to be a good employee? Be on time. I can't put any, it sounds dumb, but trust me, your supervisor, your employer, whatsoever, for those of you like me working in 9 to 5, there are a lot of things that they could actually bash on you for. But the one thing, if you're on time, chances are, that's one thing they don't have against you. Again, those are the basics. All right. I did a little YouTube clip about that a couple of some time ago. I called it minimum basic shit. And I still stand by that. There's a minimum basic few things that you can apply to every single formula of everything you want to achieve, whatever you want. If it's baking a cake, there are basic let's make it very visual. If it's baking a cake, there are basic ingredients that you need to make this happen. So this is step number 1 of the simple steps for an efficient process. You need to honor the basics. Figure out what it is you want to do, but boil it down, water it down. I guarantee you, whatever you're doing in your life, whatever process, whatever you need to do, you need to go out there and shoot some hoops. You need to go out there and shoot some hoops. You need to know how to dribble. Can you dribble a ball? Can you dribble a ball? I'm not even talking about making a 3-point from the center line. You need to know how to dribble a ball. If you cannot dribble a ball, you cannot call yourself a basketball player, because at the basics, a basketball player needs to know how to dribble a ball. So I'm not going to waste too much energy on this, but that is step number 1. 3 simple basics. So step number 1, got it out of the way. Honor the basics. Step number 2, boring is inevitable. This is hard for some people because efficiency is, for me, goes part and parcel with a very prolonged amount of time. So efficiency takes time. You cannot wake up, go to a piano, and say and call yourself Mozart. You cannot get on a keyboard, having never played a musical instrument in your life, and know yourself you're going to write me a symphony and opera right now. It is not going to happen. It is going to take some time. It is going to take repetition. It is going to take failure. It is going to take sucking. You're going to have to suck. It's going to suck before it gets better. You're going to learn do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do. And then you're going to learn how to put your fingers on a keyboard. And you're going to learn, like, up keys, down keys. I'm not a musician, so I'm making stuff up. But you guys know what I mean. Bringing it back to this podcast. The first episodes sucked. The audio was bad. I yelled into the microphone. I clenched my teeth. So it's going to suck before it gets better. You understand? Walking into a marriage, I can only take examples that I know. Walking into my marriage, the first 2.5 years of my marriage were just like a huge adaptation of just boring is inevitable, because you know what? You don't know what you're doing. So at a certain point, you're going to have to do the same. Like I said, you take those basics, you bring it to the boring, because boring requires repetition. Boring requires patience. Boring requires doing the same thing over and over again, realizing what works and what doesn't. You're going to have to trial and error, and then you're going to get what's called feedback, whether through your listeners, whether through your spouse, whether through your kids, whether through your boss, whether through your employees. You're going to know what works. You're going to know what doesn't. I had to make a lot of mistakes for this podcast to see it through over the course of 6 years. I had to bring in the boring. So trust me, because there are times where you wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, you are not in the mood to edit an episode on a Saturday morning. But guess what? Boring is inevitable. Boring and expertise. Your expertise is going to come from repetition and repetition and repetition and repetition. The difference between a white belt and a black belt is that the black belt spent 10 years from being a white belt to actually get to the black belt. There is a term of process where the white belt is going to have to learn to do whatever boring stuff they have to do. Repetition. Karate Kid, same example. Karate Kid was the same example. Wax on, wax off. I saw that movie a couple of months ago with my kids, and it actually, for my ADHD kids, it actually caught their attention. Wax on, wax off. Why am I doing this? Mr. Miyagi, why am I doing this? Wax on, wax off. Wax the circle, left the circle, right the circle, left the circle. You guys remember this. If you're an 80s kid, you know what I mean. But what happened at the end? Everything made sense. Everything became clear. He became an expert martial artist. You're the best around. I'm sorry, I got overcarried there. But it's going to have to suck. You're going to have to paint some boards. You're going to have to wax on, wax cars. You're going to have to wax floorboards, wax on, wax off. Boring is inevitable if you want to become efficient. I don't care what industry you are, whatever you do, right? To this day, I don't like going to the gym. I don't like going to the Spartan race, but I love going to the Spartan race. You know why? It's going to suck, but I know at some point, the sucky part is going to be worth it, because you know what? Repetition breeds efficiency. It's going also to teach you patience. It's going to teach you also consistency. If you keep showing up, you cannot tell me that there will not be a proper and efficient end result. As long as you follow, have you honored the basics? If you've honored the basics, if you've showed up, and if you've applied that rigor, if you'd applied the respect for the boring, what I call the boring, because, being good, being efficient, boring and long term, and no end result, and no quick result, and no immediate satisfaction is not sexy, is it? All right. But ask Warren Buffett. He made some really great investments really, really early, and he left it boring. And for some reason, you know what? Let's talk about Warren Buffett, shall we? Okay, Efficiency. Come on. All right. So I've been with my wife 18 years. Okay. There have been ups, there have been downs. But we've been together, and we've had a ride or die relationship since day one. You know what? Some days it takes patience. Some days it takes consistency, but you keep showing up. So you need to bring in that dedication. You need to bring in that patience. You need to bring in that clarity of, listen, as long as I honor the basics and I keep respecting the fact that, it's going to take some time, you will see it through. So that was step 2. And like I said, I don't want to take too much of you guys' time. The last one is something that people lose sight of. I believe that you need to also remember to adapt. That's step 3. You need to remember to adapt. What I mean by that, I'm an 80s kid. My kids are not growing up with the same parameters that I did. All right. So I have a different perspective than my parents did, and my kids have a perspective that I don't. So what was probably an obstacle for my parents is not an obstacle to me, and was an obstacle to me will probably not be an obstacle for my kids. So it is okay to honor the basics, to have a very clear vision, to have a very firm grasp on what you want to achieve. It is primary that you respect the importance of patience. Like I said, the boring, respect the boring and the inevitable aspect that it's going to take you some time, but never, ever, ever lose sight of the fact that you have to also be malleable. I'm not saying like just keep pushing the goal, just keep, like what I like to say, keep moving the goalpost. All right. You can't hit a moving target. It's okay to have a clear vision, but you need to adapt. At some point, you need to understand, like, you know what? Listen, we were going that way, but there's a flood. No, but this is where we're headed, but there's a flood. No, but this is where we're going, but there's a flood. The road is blocked. We can't go there, but we can actually just go around and we'll still get there. It's probably going to take us more time, but we can still get there. That's what I mean by adapting, because at some points you will find roadblocks. So you can either pick a chainsaw, and if you have one, you can either climb over that tree that fell over the road, or you can take 2 seconds and realize that, okay, what else can we do? Maybe we need to go back and try again. Maybe we can just like go under, go around, go over, steamroll it, get, some people to help us move it. This is what I mean. You need to adapt, because some of you are way too stubborn. Some of you are way too into your own ego to understand that, you know what, maybe you don't have all the answers. Maybe you will not figure it out on your own. Maybe you do need to take some time and reassess. Maybe you probably did not see these parameters, and that's okay. Because like I said, ego is one of your biggest enemies along an efficient process. If you cannot learn to adapt, if you cannot learn to see things for what they are as opposed to what they, what you would like them to be, that is a great fallacy you can fall trapped to. And that is something I'm warning you against, because your process will suffer if you do not learn to be malleable and adaptive to whatever comes your way. And that can only serve you if you remain aware of these circumstances, because it's not always easy. It's not. But these are things I really want you to keep aware of as your process adapts along the way. So just signing off, let's rehash. Let's recap. First step, honor the basics. There are some minimum basic steps that come with whatever process you want to achieve, whether, like I said, baking a cake, having a successful podcast, having a successful marriage, raising successful kids. There are basic things that you need to, you cannot achieve otherwise. It needs to be an integral part of whatever process. There are some simple basic elements that need to be part of your process. Step 2, boring is inevitable. Time, consistency, patience, dedication, clarity. It has to be part and parcel. You have the basics. Now you need to have the patience to apply them and see them through. You're not going to get it going in. It's impossible. It does not happen. Even if you're born with a God-given gift, you still need to see it through for it to see revealed. But you still need to cater to that gift. So boring, repetition, consistency is inevitable. And third, and final, remember to adapt, because you will make mistakes. You will fail. You will falter. Like I said, it's going to suck. You will fall flat on your face. You will want to give up, and that's okay. But you also need to adapt, because as long as you remain very clear on your why, I'm not saying, like I said, don't move your goalpost. Have a very clear vision of where you're headed. But at the core, remember that you need to adapt. You need to understand that along the way, you will come to roadblocks. You will come within naysayers. You will find people. You will need people to support you, to help you, to advise you. And you can only benefit from it. But learn to adapt. Know how to adapt. Know when to adapt. Because being malleable and being reactive is also necessary and part of your arsenal. So yeah, guys, those are my 2 cents. Thank you guys for checking in. It's always fun to actually check in on these, impromptu solos and give you my 2 cents in the solo sessions. So yeah, if you think that, you can add some other simple steps to an efficient process, I would like to hear about them, please. So feel free to either email me and let me know in the DMs. You guys know where to contact me. But as always, awakentheawesome@gmail.com. Another episode of the Awaken the Awesome podcast in the can, guys. As always, the fuel that I feel, the energy I feel from you guys is amazing. As you know, we need your support. We need your support with every following episode. I'm really trying to push the podcast, give the podcast some more, some jet fuel. So the best way to do that, as always, I know I put it in the intro and the outro, but I'm saying it from the heart. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, share, post, like, comment. These are what shows the algorithm, because this is where we are, Web3. The algorithm needs to see that there's actually fuel behind this movement. So UATA Tribe are my biggest arsenal on this one. So right now, this is us, this is me, this is you, and this is how we're going to push it forward. But in the meantime, I will see you at the next recording, wherever these words find you. Love you guys. Stay blessed, stay safe, and as always do, have a great evening and stay awesome. Ciao.
This has been another episode of the Awaken the Awesome podcast. We always love to get your feedback, so please do drop us a line via Instagram, Facebook, or email. Our email address, awakentheawesome@gmail.com. Do visit our official website at awakentheawesome.ca, where you can find our entire back catalog of episodes and incredible guests. Also, if you haven't already, please hop on over to Apple Podcasts and subscribe, give us a rating, and leave us a review, as this helps us tremendously in growing this podcast and spreading the word to more awesome listeners like you. We always appreciate your support, and thank you for listening. Stay awesome.